Hey everybody, welcome to Playbook by Laserforce Loveland. This podcast is a platform for laser tag players to geek out about strategies, stories, and ongoings in the Laserforce scene, and for you to join us as another player at the table. My codename is Mischief. I'm a player from Loveland, Colorado who loves to talk tag. Tonight I'm joined by DiscoStu from Detroit, Michigan. Disco,
I'm doing
how you doing,
great,
man?
Mischief. Good to talk to you.
Thanks for coming on, dude.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about your origin story
absolutely.
as a player?
I got into this game back in 1998. Off system. I was on System Q of Ultrazone. And
What is that?
System Q Ultrazone.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to sound insulting to people who play System Q. I just hadn't heard of it before.
It's just an old iteration of Ultrazone.
I don't know what Ultrazone
Another system
is
that tried to be as similar as it could be to Laserforce, I would say. They're another company that's based out of Australia.
Okay.
And they used to ship their systems and send you a repair kit, and you had to teach yourself how to repair the vests. Yeah.
Lovely.
But yeah, it was at a birthday party for my brother. I think he was turning probably 14 at the time. So that would have made me 16.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hooked immediately. I mean, it just took that birthday party for me to get into it. I thought it was fantastic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably only took me about a month to meet my first few members. And the manager of the place was a big gamer, sports, video games, whatever. He just loved to come up with like these crazy little games and ideas. Often he would make little trophies to go along with it. So he was doing member nights and challenge nights and all kinds of stuff to get us going back. It was a lot of fun.
Right. Man, that manager sounds like just such a pleasure to be around.
He was. Very friendly guy. He was Canadian. And a lot of his Canadianisms rubbed off. Some of which I probably still use today. I call a lot of people brother. That comes from him. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that manager is a great great example of something we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, that's right.
Today, DiscoStu and I, we decided to come on. We're going to be talking about growing the Laserforce scene. This is I think it's probably one of the most important topics we could possibly talk about. Normally this podcast we'd be talking about the specifics of gameplay and all that, and we definitely want to do that as we continue on with the podcast. But growing the Laserforce scene is important because without an influx of new players and growth, the scene will slowly die out, and we won't have people to play with anymore. This whole idea, it's funny. Like you started at a site, and those were the only people you played with. I started at a whole different site. You and we connected through the international community. And that's kind of what we're mainly talking about today. A few episodes ago, I spoke with Guy Next Door about building a member base. Like when you at your specific site, you start getting members who show up regularly, you form a community in that way. But the Laserforce scene in total, I think it's so much bigger than just all the member bases individually. There's international tournaments now. There's an online community. And all the amazing friendships between.
That's right. It's a lot bigger than it ever was, and technology moving along has made staying connected or connecting for the first time so much easier nowadays. I started at a time before cell phones were really that common, right? And at a time where all these video game systems that everybody has now and their computer rig systems, Alienware was a thing, and you're spending like $3,000 back at a time where nobody had that kind of money to throw down, right? So you're looking for something to do outside the home. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And
yeah. No, Guy Next Door said something similar. Just that he started before there was all the internet connection and the online gaming, and this was something that people would come together for to
Yep.
just connect and do something fun and gamer like at the same time. And dude, I miss the
Hmm.
in-person stuff. I do play online games with my friends sometimes, but I miss even just sitting side by side and playing like the Nintendo 64 all in the
That's
same
right.
room, like split
That's right.
screen
Yeah,
kind of games. Getting to play laser tag in the same room, like it's
it
amazing.
is.
And it's even cooler when you people are traveling in from out of state to do it with you,
See that, and that really gets to the best part of it, I think. Because certainly that's what's kept me in it is the greater laser tag community. Um, that and it's still a fun game to play and gets exercise and all that
Mhm.
stuff. But yeah,
Right.
it's awesome. And
But
so
yeah,
it's funny,
like
we all
go ahead.
start very humbly in our own worlds. Here I am playing regular standard games among public, thinking this is the greatest thing on the planet, and then starting to
Mhm.
meet new people and hang out with them, and play tag. And so, like I said, that old manager that we had was really good at coming up with different ideas. And gosh, we used to do. It was so popular for us. We were doing member nights twice a week, Friday and Saturday nights from midnight to 2
Okay.
a.m. Um, yeah,
No
yeah, the
way.
demand
That's
was high
awesome.
enough for it back then. And then we also had like these member challenge nights that came up, I think, once a month. So not super often. You could win like little certificates and you could hang them at the location or you could bring them
Mhm.
home. It was up to the player what they wanted to do. We kept a space
Mhm.
inside our store where members could put up their own artwork. So like kind of like in the shape of a scorecard, but they could draw their own avatar and keep it up in store.
Oh,
Oh yeah, it was
no way.
awesome. But he still has it in a binder now, probably at his house, but it might be at his laser tag store in Ann Arbor. I'm not sure. I haven't connected in a while. But yeah, we had hundreds of them. It was awesome, and almost all of them were hand drawn, or some of them might have been printed. And then colored in or what
Mhm.
what have you. But yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, man. Like let's start talking about how we grow the laser force scene. The first thing right off the bat with what you're talking about, I mean, your manager turned laser tag into something so much more than laser tag for you. Like a whole community, a set of like tradition
Yeah,
was built there, and people were showing up playing till 2 in the morning. Like that's like what was it about all that kept you
yeah.
coming back?
Every single week, Friday, Saturday night. Not a lot of times we ever had to cancel for lack of interest. It was usually uh, we had more people than we would have to rotate, through games and stuff. Now it was a small location, 26 vest store. Um, but yeah, most of our member nights were probably in that 10 to 20 range, but some of them got up into the 40s. And I'm talking for months, not just, once or twice here. Like we would go on these runs where people were just showing up.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, a lot of that went to the manager at the laser tag. And so you're really lucky if you have a site where management is at least, or, ownership is at least attuned to um, developing that kind of atmosphere, to develop regular customers
Mm-hmm.
that you want to have coming back, provide a safe environment for young adults and old teens to go to and not have to worry about too much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so
Right.
giving a space for community and then nurturing that community is exactly where you get started, right? Hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was something that Guy Next Door highlighted as well, was just the people were what kept him coming back as well. And same for me. These friendships. I would also say the passion, the way that like your manager took laser tag and then made it something more, and all the players, they just keep coming and they talk about it, they develop a play style, they have something to really sink their teeth into in building this up. Like the trophies and the avatars and all that. That gets me
Yeah,
excited.
absolutely.
Like I don't know, have you ever played
I
Dungeons
have.
and Dragons before?
It's a lot of fun.
Like I imagine a lot of people who've played laser tag will have also
Oh
played
man.
D&D. I mean, that's a game you can sink your teeth
Oh,
into, you know.
absolutely.
You the amount of involvement that you want to put in, it like you can put in as much as you
Yeah.
want with it. You could think about your campaign or character for days
Yeah.
and days and days,
So
or just 10 minutes. It's really up to
that
you.
reminds me of a game type that me and this manager used to play. Do you remember the game Silent
Uh-huh.
Hill? So when that first
Yes,
came
yes.
out, that oh man, that might have been the most intense horror game that had come out to that point on a game system. Yeah,
Yeah, for
with
its
and the
time. Yeah.
graphics, of course, were far superior to the system before. So you had these two things going for this game, right? And my boss and I, we would talk to each
Mhm.
other occasionally and be like, the best time to play this is at night, all the lights off, the volume pumped up, like really gets your nerves going. So we recreated that
Yeah.
atmosphere in the arena. We had a mic system that we took and put the feedback to max and put that by the computer fans so that in the arena it sounded, super scary. And then we had
Really.
put those spinning caution lights, the yellow spinning caution lights. We'd put like four of them around the
Uh-huh.
arena at the time. So this is before light systems were really a thing. So you kind of had to rig all these different things. And
Uh-huh.
we definitely did, had fun doing stuff like that. So we would kill the black lights,
Mhm.
only have the caution lights. You've got the feedback and the reverb going through the audio system. And for 1 hour,
Mhm.
we're playing a 10 life death match.
In the dark with all those
Yeah,
lights.
dude. Oh,
Wow. That sounds amazing.
yeah. So it was a lot of fun. Yeah,
Man.
that was wild stuff. And so having a system that you could edit was super fun. And then what drew me to Laserforce, and I'll tell you how I got there in a minute, but was the
Uh-huh.
different game types. And D&D was the first one that I enjoyed before I got into SM5. Which of course I was probably
Mhm.
playing that on Gen 3 or 4. So you're talking about,
Sure.
oh gosh, I don't even remember how we did things, if there was a button on the old phasers or not. It's been too long. Um, I think it was a matter of like
I've never even seen a Gen
holding
4
the
vest.
trigger down for the spell book. I don't know. It was crazy. It's still a little bit unwieldy, but
Mhm.
man, it's gotten so much better than it was. Because there were, you had to have
Sure, yeah.
delays in the system for it to switch over to the menu, and then you had to click through the menu, and then there's a slight pause for it to select it, activate it, and then fire off your spell. Now it's gotten quite a bit easier, though
Mhm.
we're still stuck on Gen 7. I noticed that they at least sent through a patch where um, the spell book works a lot faster. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Oh man, we really need someone to like come. We need to have someone host a D&D tournament because we were never properly taught in Loveland how to
Oh,
really
really?
play it. Like I think some of us can navigate spell books, but what I mean is like I've never gotten a chance to learn what the meta is, how you have the four classes function together properly. Like yeah, I don't know much of the nuance of the game.
I've been playing it for
But
on and off, for almost I guess for 20 years now, and I feel
mhm.
similar.
It's
Yeah,
complicated for
going in
sure.
and out of that spell book, first, I feel like a magnet to players. Whenever I go into the spell book, somebody's going to be around that corner, guaranteed.
Man, so back to growing the
Hmm.
Laserforce scene in the community. Yeah, this is kind of an inherent, intrinsic quality of Laserforce
Hmm.
communities. I mean, I haven't met any community that isn't filled with its own unique dynamic of nerdiness and geeky shenanigans. Like every Laserforce community is going to be different. They're going to have their own nuances and
Hmm.
things they like to do. But when I think about us going, like, you and I, we're from the Space
Yeah.
Marines 5 community. Whenever our group gets together, I usually see some people break out like Magic the Gathering and board
Yeah.
games. There's people that like to go out and have a drink together. There's, I don't know what else.
Disc golf now,
Like,
my friend.
people they love to break out disc golf. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Disc golf. We had a whole group do that now with themed trophies. Oh man, that was cool. How does your Laser Force disc golf disc
Oh,
work?
the putter. It's cool, but I bought a cooler putter.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I mean, so it's kind of a slicker grip, but it's a lot of fun. It's a good disc, but it looks really cool on my wall as well.
Mm-hmm.
The nice thing about it is,
So
guy
we
next
were
door put a Laser Force theme on it, and of course, if he cross pods down the road, he's got plans for the future with discs as well, being Space Marine themed.
mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think actually they might have been advertising some of those
Yeah,
on their pod. I think they'll be
yeah.
available for
So
purchase
check that
soon,
out.
or
Yeah.
maybe already. Yep, check out the resupply on Twitch. On Twitch. To find Laser Force products and shenanigans.
Yeah.
So you get a group of Laser Force players together. They tend to start connecting over Laser Force and all the other
Hmm.
passions in their life. But part of it seems contingent on there being a platform or a space for it
Hmm.
to be fostered. Your manager was a person who was able to initiate those kind of connections and create and foster that scene. But that's not always the case, though. Sometimes you have management that's either uninvolved or don't really want a member base quite as much. Do you have anything that you would say to situations like that?
That's tough. If the ownership is at least amenable to you, either renting the space at a set price or creating an agreement. Often FECs have a day that they're closed. And if you can create an agreement where it's not going to
Mm,
interfere with their cleaning or whatever, to, host a members night during that time when they're there, they have stuff up and running. But, you've got a group of people that just want to stick to the
mm-hmm,
tag so they don't have to turn the arcades on. If you can come up with some sort of agreement like that, it can still work. But that's also putting you in a situation where you need a couple good organizers around in your community to put these things together because you're
mm-hmm,
not going to get help from the local shop. So creating events, and potentially booking events for when they are open and seeing if they'll allow you to basically like sponsor an event, so you're still paying the shop for usage, whatever rental looks like, or booking a specific number of games that can be worked around parties if that's if it's on a weekend. But yeah, we were fortunate. So that's how, when I came from Zone over to Laser Force, we were fortunate in Detroit with Dave Jackson,
mm-hmm.
who was very much into having a community of regular members. and allowing them to, play a bunch of different game types. And
Right.
and so we took a traveling group and almost immediately doubled their member base at the time, because it was back in 2000, at least of, kind of more hardcore
Mhm.
regular players, people that probably shouldn't be playing with
Mhm.
general public too often, because they're just, they're too good.
Right.
Yeah. So we had a space
Yeah.
when I came over to Force already as well, with an owner that was amenable to it. So that's helpful too.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, definitely helpful. And yeah, there's all kinds of different scenarios that people have. Like starting off here by talking about the individual member bases at an individual site. Yeah, it's a combination of like the owner, the staff members, and the members themselves, the players who show up, and how everyone forms kind of a, either a culture or an agreement at least, so they can play
Yeah.
laser tag every week. And then there's do you ever see people do things outside of tag on a weekly basis? Like people probably going disc golf is another way they can like continue to build that connection with each
Yep.
other throughout the
And
week.
I would say, there's a handful of us that still do both on a very regular basis, disc golf and laser tag. But yeah, that's absolutely something that some of us outside the game get together to do. I play with, easily 10 to 12 other people that I met through tag and who are still connected to the scene, every couple of weeks
Mm-hmm.
or so. You have people that get together and go to the movies, of course, or just hang out, whatever, miniature golf, going to parks, doing kind of what we did in New Zealand on a smaller scale at times,
On a
Yeah.
smaller scale, but absolutely, yeah. Yeah, just doing don't underestimate the power of doing more than just laser tag with each other, because it's the friendships that keep people glued to the game
Yeah.
and coming back. Something that we do at Loveland is after every tag, there's always kind of this open period between maybe like 9 or 10 o'clock at night into however late we're willing to stay up. People tend to sit outside and talk about the night and what they saw. We love to bond over looking at
Mhm.
the stats page, where we have the privilege of being able to go onto lfstats.com and just
Yep.
look at all the stats. And we'll also just talk about our lives. We might go out and get some really late food, or even all get online and play some video games. The hanging out doesn't end until we all go to bed, basically, and
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. I mean, you end up making lifelong friendships with this, and and you end up
Hmm.
getting into all kinds of different stuff that maybe you didn't think you were going to before. So laser tag opens up new worlds, guys.
Oh yeah, definitely. So let's talk a little about expanding the global scene. So the reason I'm here today is thanks to the St. George site, particularly
Mhm.
Thunder, who I know has done. He's a player from St. George, Utah, and he's done a lot of outreach. He's told me about over the years. But basically, we had a members base, but we didn't know anybody from the outside world until Thunder and his gang got a hold of our owner and set up a week for them to come out and play Space Marines 5 with us. They also played other game modes too, but we ended up hosting a mini tournament. We hosted 5 Loveland teams, 30 players, and the St. George brought their team of 6. And I think St. George only lost 1 game the entire time,
Wow.
having never stepped in our arena before. They just came in and showed us like the world of the worldwide Space Marines community. And 1 year later, we hosted Laserforce Internationals and had everyone come and introduce themselves and show us the
Yeah.
game. from that point on, we made those connections and started attending tournaments, but it required an outreach. And you had this thought about being kind of an ambassador to represent your site when visiting other sites. I wonder if you could talk a
Yeah.
little about
So,
that.
if you have an interest in something, it's only going to be as good as the members that are a part of it. And at some point, if you've been around the scene for a while, you should consider stepping up and taking on kind of an ambassadorial role in terms of reaching out to other sites and other players, getting to know different people and stuff like that, and really just starting to jump into it. But yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
I was invited into the scene back in the day by Thanatos from the Sacramento site, and Goofball.
Oh, really?
That was my first tournament down in Sugarland, Texas. He was the other part of that, the other player that had reached
Okay.
out to us in Detroit. And Texas actually sent a team up, but I think it was after '02. So it was after I went, and it was only 2 players from the Detroit scene. And I'll be honest, those 2 players were actually from the Ultrazone scene in Ann Arbor. It was me and a player named Mutin
Mm-hmm.
Rashi. We went to those early tournaments. But anyways, when you get out there, when you go to different sites, um, you know, same life principle, don't be a dick. You want to, it's hard. I'm a very shy, introverted type of person who comes across as like, I would say pretty open and gregarious, right? Um, so for that personality type, it's still manageable if you can, regulate your, what's going on inside yourself, um, and
Mm-hmm.
build up your inner energy for, these sorts of highly social situations that I know a lot of people need a lot of time to recharge from afterwards. Um, it's
Mm-hmm.
important to go in there and represent yourself well, and that'll reflect well on your site. Um, I mean, granted, we're all connected, but we're all also individuals, and we're all growing and learning. So not everything's going to be perfect every time. But if you have a good heart and a good mind for it, stepping into another place, another site, um, and just introducing yourself,
Yeah.
having a chat.
Yeah, definitely. Appreciate you being
Hmm.
vulnerable about that. You definitely come across to me as someone who is easier to talk to. You're always kind of like there. You bring good vibes to a tournament. And I think no matter who comes up and talks to you, you treat everyone with respect, and that does reflect well on your site and help make the overall scene a better place. The more people we have like that, whenever we do, mixed site events, the more the overall scene feels like a safe and welcoming
Yeah,
place to people, and the more of that, you know, more of that love for the
yeah.
game we build.
And
But
on the
yes,
flips.
you
Oh yeah,
spoke for a
sorry. Go ahead.
moment, if I may, you spoke for a moment about, people taking responsibility to kind of step up and be
Hmm.
ambassadors for their site. I mean, I want to second that. If you're the if you're the type of person who's listening to an episode about growing the Laserforce scene right now, I imagine you have some vested interest in making sure that the Laserforce scene continues on, and maybe you're even a part of leadership at a Laserforce site, or maybe you are a person who isn't part of a worldwide community, but you play laser tag and you're interested in this. I I don't just encourage you, I challenge you to take that responsibility to help be the change you want to see and help expand this scene. We need more people who are willing to step up and buy a cheap plane ticket and go visit another site, or even just make a phone call and
Hmm.
invite people in to the community. Right now, the only real example I see, I want to commend Odin's Fist and Kodama from California. They have currently outreached a site called Lost Worlds in Los Angeles, and they're putting together the very first members night. They did the negotiating with the management, and um, I'm gonna try to make it out as soon as I can. Buy a cheap plane ticket for a weekend. I think they're doing
Hmm.
monthly members nights. But this is how it begins. You got to get people in. You got to get your foot in the door, and then once you start building those connections with these new players, like who knows, they might be hooked as well. They might start coming out. But an invitation is always
Yeah,
required. The people who are already in the scene need to initiate.
that's right.
Anyway, what were you gonna say?
Sorry, I had technical difficulties for just a moment there. Um,
Oh, you're fine.
so what was I gonna say? Yeah. Well, probably the first thing we should have said, right? Go on Google Maps, type in laser tag near me,
Laser tag near me.
and get in your car and start going. Get some friends together if you can, or just show up. Show up around those times where kind of in the evening times on the weekends where you might run into more regulars and less birthday parties. But yeah, get out there, get out in the
Mm-hmm.
world and play laser tag and meet people and, uh, you know, play some games, make some games. There's a lot of systems that have editing software. Um, if you're able to,
Mm-hmm.
create games. Laserforce already has a ton of different game settings that people can try. For us old curmudgeons, I
Yeah.
also recommend that we go back to our earlier days and start traveling, within our regions if possible, or checking out new sites, reaching out to new sites, and seeing what you can do. That's awesome what Kodama and Odin's Fist are doing out in LA there. And there's tons of Laserforce sites across North America. Which to me says there's tons of opportunity out there.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Definitely. Yeah, there's so many sites that just all they need is the invitation. Maybe they have the willing player base and
Yeah.
everything, but they just I mean, people at this stage here in 2023, it's not known at all that there are competitive laser tag players or even just
Yeah.
members, really. It tends to be kind of a niche, but I truly believe that this is going to grow and grow and grow. It is becoming synonymous with like esports. I think it's a perfect combination of a physical sport and a video game, and people who try it genuinely love it.
Oh, absolutely. So when I worked it, I had the pleasure of handing the youngest player I ever had was an oversized 2.5-year-old. So a 2.5-year-old that was probably twice
Oh
the
my
height of a normal two and a
gosh.
half year old. Um, yeah, or I've had younger in their father or mother's arms, with the father or mother holding on to
Mm-hmm.
a portion of the phaser and having the kid pull the trigger. And then I had a couple that were
Mm-hmm.
celebrating their oh, 50th wedding anniversary or 80th birthday party. I can't remember which. It was part of a full day experience for them, but a
Mm-hmm.
portion of it they came to the laser tag and see great grandma and great grandpa kicking some ass and some tag. Should tell anybody, this is a game for everyone.
Mm-hmm. It's a game for everyone. That is such
Hmm.
a good way of putting it. It really is. Yeah, that just lends to why people are going to keep showing up and why
Yeah.
it's going to keep growing.
We're also in a unique situation.
Another point.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just going to add,
Oh,
we're in a
are we?
unique situation coming off of the pandemic, which really put people in a space where they were closed off from the world. And I think it's still clear that for many
Mm-hmm.
people, coming back out is still a thing. We did our big trip this year that had been planned for 3, and that's, it took a long
Mm-hmm.
time for us to get together, right? Um, well, other
Yeah,
laser
it did.
tag sites are experiencing a similar thing outside of Laserforce. And so there are regular laser tag players out there that are looking for that space and that community to get back involved with. And many of them already exist in their own worlds. I've got a Discord that I became a member of for the Ann Arbor area in Michigan, so southeast Michigan, but about 45 minutes to 50 minutes west of Detroit. And yeah, I mean, there's players that used to play regularly, can't anymore, and they're looking. And it was just a matter of getting on Discord, reaching out to that community. We did have our first 3 crossovers come and play with us last week. And they had a great time. One of the players, Fox, glommed onto Medic right away and really enjoyed talking about that sort of role of player support, and talked about how, you know, when she plays games, when she's gaming either online or in person, that's the role that she likes to play. She likes to play a support role. And then we had another player who struck me as someone who may have been more tip of the spear in his home system. But he did. They both did well. Neither of them went negative with our group, and they had a good time. So hopefully we can continue to draw off of that. Yeah,
definitely. What do you think it was? So there was like, they connected to the game itself. They liked the game. They were able to talk with you and sort of geek out about what they had fun with that night and delve deeper into the game itself. And sounds like you were really welcoming and friendly to them as well. Sounds like they may be coming back. But these are some of the elements that helped with that.
Yes, and it helps to have the players that are of a similar mindset all around. So we had players, Brew was there, and he has a deep experience of the game, you know, so he's able to share. We had Ivy, who's very open and welcoming to players. You know, she plays hard and she plays tough, and she let him know, and you know, they were cool with it. So it helps to have some of the other players. If you have a good set of people, you know, nice people, it helps to have them. So, you know, it helps to kind of open your mindset to letting new people come in and make their mistakes, play around it and teach them. You know, you can be competitive and fierce without being scary and mean. You know, that's going to keep people engaged and keep people interested in exploring the new games, specifically SM5.
Yeah, definitely. And for those of you who may not have tried SM5, we consider it kind of like the peak of competitive play in Laserforce. It's just complicated to learn, even more complicated to strategize, and this is a good segue into, like, you said something kind of profound there. We can be competitive without being scary and mean. Like, what exactly does that look like, and how do people kind of reach that balance? Because I just want to say, I don't think it's appropriate to like force players to go easy and like, I don't know if neuter is the right word, but we're here to compete. We're here to play a competitive game. So I don't really think the answer is that we need to remove everyone's competitive edge so that new players can feel comfortable. But how do we find that balance?
I think that what's helped for us right now is we kind of have our goals right now are to train and to get in good, you know, as effective training as we can. And so that sometimes means putting us in challenging situations inside the arena to kind of try to even it out for the new players. It also means that sometimes we might not be attacking the resupply as hard as we otherwise would be. So there is that aspect. We did slow it down just a touch. But yeah, at the same point, you know, it depends on the setting, right? If we're in more of a training and practice night, we might focus on specific aspects of the game, mostly the control points, and you know, but we'll like give them up and then try to retake them, things of that nature. At least that's kind of my mindset at some points in the game. Yeah, but you know, if you're in a setting where it's like a member night, or you're in a small competition or something like that, you respect the game by playing it to the best of your ability, and you try to maintain that through a game as best you can. And you know,
Hmm.
there's always going to be moments maybe where your head goes down a little bit, but you just take the time you need to reconstitute yourself and come back better from it.
Yeah. That was really good. I have a couple things to
Sure.
say on what you just said. The first being that, yeah, if you're losing your head, I did do a 2-minute video about how to untilt on this channel, and these are just kind of based in pretty common grounding and like mindfulness techniques. Just taking some deep breaths, putting your hand on a wall, and taking a walk after the game. Those three things can really help players to sort of like get out of an anxious or angry headspace when they're in the middle of a game. And that's not even just to protect new players. It's helpful for players in high competitive situations. You don't want to be playing with rage and panic. You want to be in a cool-headed, good decision-making kind of place. So that's just something for everyone to learn from. And I'm not perfect at that, you know,
Nope.
but
It's something
something
to
to
aspire
consider.
to.
And
Hmm.
definitely. But the other thing, I'd never thought about this, what you just said, the idea that maybe I don't have to go easy on new players, but I can focus on practicing specific elements of my game that will alleviate a little
Hmm.
pressure on the new players. Like instead of focusing on eliminating the enemy team, and maybe that would be my normal strategy, you take these member night games, which they're not competitive, like, elimination playoff games. So it's okay if you lose. You focus on maybe your territory control. And like, I'm going to try playing a style that is more territory control. And I can still play that really hard, but it will inherently provide the enemy team kind of more of a safe place in their back line if the new players get pushed out and need to retreat.
Yeah.
Feels kind of like a good
Yeah,
compromise.
it helps, especially so. Fox, we ran her on resupply, probably her third game in on the system itself, so she'd never played Force before either. Um, I think they were
Right.
all either Blast or Zone players. I can't remember exactly, but they'll tell me. Um, but yeah, so that was nice to put the focus of the game more in the midfield, so that she could learn a little bit more slowly how to deal with people coming in on the attack, because it still happened a couple of times in the game, just not as often as it could have. And yeah, so that was
Mm-hmm.
helpful to hopefully not be too overwhelming, but at the same time give her an idea of the escape route and where to reset, and then coming back up and that sort of thing. Things specific to our arena and how we play it. Yeah.
Right.
And
Definitely.
then, yeah, new players aren't going to know
This,
about
this is a
chasing and
good,
blind fires. It's not going to help anybody if you chew them out for it.
right.
It helps to maybe make them aware of it. But at the same time, for all you better players out there, some nights you want people chasing and blind firing to make you move more and make you better at your shot. Like, most new players, if they're blind firing, an experienced
Preach,
player should still
Disco.
be able to put them down pretty easily, as long as they're, within the field of vision. At least that's my opinion.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad you said that, man. Look at, because look, Disco. How many times have you been in a competitive tournament with referees and somebody blind fired you and got away with it?
It's gotten a lot better than it used to be, but it happens. It happens every tournament. Uh, it happens.
And what about chases and
You
getting
know,
away with it?
you can't rely on a path if there's nobody there to see it. So you might as well keep moving. Um, but
Mm-hmm.
that's the other thing is uh, make sure you know your backtracks first off. But also, you got to give grace to the new players, and sometimes that means you're going to have to set a much longer backtrack before they realize, oh yeah, that's a rule that you have. And then just let them know.
Right.
Let them know as
I just
kindly as
love
you
what you
can.
said because yeah, exactly. It doesn't, if you are trying so hard to get people to follow the rules on a members night that it's like ruining the game for you, you got to recognize that these are situations that might happen even when referees are around with experienced players, and they might not even be trying to
That's right.
intentionally cheat.
And
So consider these unintentional fouls a feature of the
yeah,
game. Get used to
yes,
them. When new players do it, especially, you can't hold them to that
yes.
standard.
We all get tired too. We all lose our form at some point in games, and when that happens, mistakes happen. This idea, I like that we're challenging the
Mm-hmm.
idea of cheating and bringing this more into the realm of fouls, because that's certainly the most important.
Mm-hmm.
Even players that tend to get tagged over and over and over again. To me, when I see them in game, my read is that they don't mean it. They're in the zone, and so they're going
Yeah,
hard at you,
definitely.
and and that again, that's why we have referees, so that when a player commits a foul because they're in the zone and they didn't see it, or something like that, um, to just jump
Mm-hmm.
straight to the intent was to cheat is a bit much. I think that players are committing fouls, and that's the better way to look at it.
Yeah, definitely. I want to talk about player
Mm-hmm.
development, kind of going from very beginning to the intermediate stages. When I say intermediate, I think of a player who mentally comprehends the
Mm-hmm.
rules of games. They understand what they're generally supposed to do, but maybe they don't have enough experience or skill yet to be able to compete at the
Yeah.
highest levels. But they're still like they are now firmly into the member base. They are integrated. Getting a player from first walking in the door to there, I think requires a certain amount of help
Mm-hmm.
from the community. You'd kind of mentioned that throwing them straight into competitive games is kind of a mistake, and I wonder if you could talk about that a
Yeah.
little.
So if we used to try to integrate new players while we would be training for, a Nats competition or an East Coast competition. So typically
Mm-hmm.
the stress levels were already pretty high. So that's if you come into a situation like that, blind to it, mind you, right? You're just getting to know people, but then all of a sudden, you're in the situation where people are just going
Right.
bananas. That's a big turnoff. That's not going to get anybody to want to be um, playing laser tag. Uh, yeah, so you have to. I mean, as players and as humans, we can all learn to regulate our emotions a little bit better. That's helpful. But at the same time, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I think recognize the spaces that you have for opportunity. And yeah, you want players that have had some time on the system. So you probably want them at an event that's more, they're still going to be mixing into all different kinds of game modes. Um, give them
Mm-hmm.
the space to play in that sort of thing. And then, if you want, if you have a player with the inclination, they can start to run, SM5 camps, basically run leagues, like an entry level league. Um, maybe limit.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to spread out your regular member base if they want to be involved in that, which they should be, because it's helpful to get everybody involved. Um, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
take the mindset and allow people to compartmentalize them. So you have your nights for your practices and your trainings and stuff like that. If you can get people that are open to training a certain way so that you can integrate new players, that's great. But if you're already in the throes of building up to the next tournament, yeah, that's not a good space for brand new players, or players that are only just starting to get into the competitive scene, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Have you ever heard of the zone of proximal
No, tell
development?
me about it.
Oh, I'd love to, as a psychology geek. So basically, when you're trying to grow someone, there's three
Mhm.
categories. There's a level of stimuli that is completely unchallenging to a person. There's a level that is too extreme and causes
Mhm.
them to panic. And then there's a sweet zone in between those two extremes where you're challenged, but um, to a point where you can still constructively think and grow from your
Mhm.
experiences. Now, for you, a the first category, like the unstimulating zone, might be if I threw you into a team supercharge with a bunch of public gen
Yes.
pub. I mean, you could smash them without even thinking. You would have to try really hard to even learn
Mhm.
anything from that. Um, Going to the other extreme might be if I basically made you play a game of Space Marines, you and a bunch of Gen Pub versus a competitive team. Like that's kind of like a no-win situation no matter what you do. You're not given tools to
Right.
succeed. You'd probably just be you'd probably just be trying your best and panicking.
Mhm.
You have such a cool head. I didn't want to use the word panic, but you know, there's nothing there to really grow you
Right.
either. It's too much. The middle is where you want anyone to be at all times, really. Now, for a new player, like a brand new player, a regular SM5 game might be too extreme at the beginning because they're still learning. They don't even know the rules. They're trying to learn so
Mhm.
much all at once. It's not reasonable to get them to expect that. That might really put them into kind of a panic mode. So nurturing players from beginning to intermediate, I think, requires keeping them adequately challenged, but not overly challenged to a point where they're not able to even learn
Yeah.
anymore. And those turnoffs keep
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah, and we'll have to be open, I think, to the idea that there's going to be a cross section of players that can play every week or even multiple times a week if they live super close to their center. I'm an hour away, so me going down there once a
Mm-hmm.
week is a challenge enough. Um, so we'll have to have more of an open mind of bi-monthly type things, maybe every other week or even once a month. For some
Mm-hmm.
aspect. For an FEC. In terms of their event schedule, I mean that's how they could kind of look at that, and then it'll be up to um, whoever's good at organizing around your site, and that might be you, and it might be somebody else, but it'll be up to them to kind of try to keep track and show up to these things to create that continuity and create those new relationships to try to draw players into wanting to play laser tag more, then kind of investigating the different game modes. And hopefully, if some of them are
Mm-hmm.
inclined, settling into SM5. And the
Mm-hmm.
rest of us keep it
Definitely.
fresh. Don't just play SM5. There was a long period of time where I know of other players, they would pretty much only play SM5 on SM5 nights. And when it got too hyper focused on that, that's where we kind of lost out on everybody else. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there became kind of a cutoff where new players coming in, that would always be too
Yeah.
intense
Either
for
they have
them,
no idea what we're
and they
doing.
wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
stick
Either
around
they
and
have no
grow.
idea what we're doing or it's too intense. That's right.
Right. So yeah, like I think a good place to start is they got to be able to win team supercharges against
Mhm.
Gen Pub just to get the muscle memory down. So I think bringing in a friend off the street who hasn't played much laser tag at all is kind of difficult. I would start by recruiting players from like who are regulars during Gen Pub
Yes.
nights kind of thing. Usually laser tag sites do something on like Friday and Saturday nights, and you start to get some regulars that
Hmm.
come around them. Um, those are good candidates. Those are good
Yeah.
recruits because they already know how to play in the arena. then can they start learning some of the harder mechanics with, I don't know, some special game modes. They could even play SM5, but I always like to start players out in SM5 on Scout because they aren't nothing they do, they're not responsible for the team's success, I suppose. No one is banking on them in order to succeed. Obviously, Scout's really important in high competitive play, but it does allow them to kind of like
Mm-hmm.
fail safely.
It gives them more grace in gameplay. You know, you get the most amount of lives on your resubs, you get the most amount of shots on your resubs. You get to see how that works as a
Mm-hmm.
player while you're getting
Yeah.
resubbed, and you still have interaction with the option button to activate rapid fire. So you're learning the basics of the equipment in that game style. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a great way to go. SM4 is another one where they can learn different mechanics of the game. I think
Yeah.
two different players can, or two different positions missile, right? In that game, heavy and ammo. Does the commander missile in SM4?
I haven't played it in years, to be honest. I think the ammo can
Okay.
missile.
Yeah, well, yes, the ammo can do it to refill the
I
heavy.
forget
I don't
otherwise.
remember if they can do it against other players, and then the heavy can just go around missiling people like crazy.
Sergeant Tucker, if you're listening, let us play some SM4. It'll be great.
Yeah, yeah, we got to jump into these old game modes. I mean, I'm rusty on all of them, so and some of them I still haven't played. I don't recall playing Laser Ball. I think I missed out on that experience when you guys jumped in Auckland.
It, yeah, it only came out a couple years ago anyway, but yeah, maybe by the we played one game with some Gen Pub. I don't think you were there
Mm-hmm.
at that time.
No, but
But
the evening
anyway,
that I was,
yeah,
it was a
starting
good
out
night. You
on
know, we had a bunch of great traveling players that represented themselves and their sites very well, and we were very interactive with
Mhm.
the public that had come in that night. Whether that pays dividends for them or not down the road depends. It was only a one off, but I'm sure if they had some regulars peeking
Right.
in every once in a while, they could probably start getting some people on a regular basis, and that's how it starts.
Yeah, I hope so. I think the tournament did sprout some more interest in just trying to build up their member base again and continuing that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see Auckland send out 4 teams to a tournament someday. I'm
Bring it
excited
on,
for that.
Auckland. I'd love to see it.
I think letting new players win games is also kind of pivotal to keeping them growing and keep coming back. And I don't think it just because you're new doesn't mean you have to lose all your
Mm-hmm.
games at the beginning. All you have to do is try to create
Yes.
even matchups. And sometimes that means you set up a really good player and a new player against 2 intermediate players to try to balance teams out if
Mm-hmm.
that's what it takes. But that's good for everybody. I think even games are universally loved.
Yes.
I'd rather play in a close game than a stacked game where I'm the
That's right.
stacked team.
It makes a big difference. I'm just having a chuckle thinking about what was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago now. Brew and Ivy and I went to Syracuse for their SM5 night.
Mm-hmm.
We just went for the night.
Oh yeah.
You guys are about to host a bunch of people today and tomorrow, your members' nights.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was
Yeah.
cool. You know, I met at least one new player, maybe two or three. And the one I'm thinking of is Mama Bear, and she had been playing in some. I think they had a kind of like a beginner or maybe intermediate level SM5 type evening. Um, Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
she's on the upper level of what that is, and then crossing over to play with us was a bit of a new world for her. Um, but yeah, sometimes because of her stats from those games, when we started doing our randomized games, it did have some wonky matchups because of that.
Sure.
Yeah, but it was
Yeah.
fun.
I'm thankful for the randomizer. I think it's more it's just more consistent to hand pick the teams or try to match them up a little more like that. Or even just a
Hmm.
sneak draft if the captains are clear on how hard they're
Yeah,
doing the lineups, then I think that's probably the
and
best
that's
way to go.
how I've done it or did it in the past. Is creating the teams. Sometimes for that member evening, we would either have to stick with the same teams for expediency, but sometimes if the games are going certain ways, or of course depending on the way player breaks worked, um, we would have to reset teams in the middle of the night. But yeah, typically it was the lead organizer that would set the teams as opposed to using the randomizer. We use the randomizer a lot nowadays because we like to have the cross position practice. Uh,
Hmm.
it's important for everybody to play every position, for the seasoned players especially. I feel keeps you
Yeah, yeah.
connected to everything.
Hmm. Oh, agreed, for sure. Sometimes what we'll do in Loveland if we draft is the captains will get together after drafting the players they want and then say, okay, I'm doing a 5
Mm-hmm.
out of 10. Let's go 5 out of 10, or let's go 2 out of 10. Let's go
Mm-hmm.
8 out of 10. As far as how you construct the lineups, like a 2 out of 10 means I'm putting my newest players on the most important positions to give them that chance, and we kind of flip it up that way.
Yep. And you'll love to see it when it works out that way with the randomizer too. Putting the top players together
Yeah, agreed.
on opposing receps, opposing scout positions, and then opposing 3-hit positions.
Hmm. Yeah, that's also part of the fun of the MVP based duos or trios
Mm-hmm.
format that we kind of set up. As maybe those tournaments continue happening in the future, just the matchups are going to be even because they match up. The commander in heavy versus the other commander in heavy should be about the same skill level, whether they're the best players there or intermediate or some of the lowest ranking players there. Um, Whoever's playing 3-hit will get a fair matchup.
Yeah. Yep. We try to do that. And then, we also run into situations where we might not hit the desirable numbers for SM5. But we've done a lot of
Hmm.
practices of 4-on-4 with 2 3 hits and the 2 resupply. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you
Yeah.
can do that.
Makes it a lot more interesting. Makes you resupply have to move a lot more and think a lot more. And that's helpful. We'll
It's
see
true.
how it pays off in the future, but I feel that's a helpful way to train on occasion.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Man, let's let's kind of start wrapping this up. Can we talk a little bit about just the worldwide scene regarding the internet? We had talked just a little bit about how you connected with some
Yeah.
people on Discord. That has become such an incredible platform for connecting people.
Yes.
I suppose most sites probably have some kind of a Discord community. Maybe they
You
don't.
know,
We do for
yeah.
Loveland.
So yeah, like we were talking about earlier, get on the internet. Because there's you're bound to run into somebody that's created some page either on Facebook or a Discord, some server on Discord, or even even X, I suppose. Twitter's still a thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's how we were discovered by the Czech base. Um,
Yeah, that's right.
there are players out there. They're all over the place, and
Hmm.
you gotta find them and see if you can get them to hang out every once in a while.
Yeah, when I have a new player at Loveland, one of the first things I try to do is just get them
Hmm.
hooked up online. I try to show them the YouTube channel that we're doing. I try to show them, um, hey, we're on the Discord, or just send them a friend request, put them in the group chat. Our member base also has a group chat, and people will usually be asking about head counts or sending memes, and it just gets people hooked up with the friends aspect of
That's
this.
right.
And as we talked about earlier, the community is what keeps people coming back. So the sooner you can make people feel connected, the better, and social media is a
Yeah,
good tool for that.
absolutely.
I really hope that someday more people make channels kind of like this one, Laserforce Loveland, or their own version of whatever they want to make regarding the Laserforce
Yeah.
community.
And
Because the more online content we have, the more people can interact with all of this without having to actually
yeah,
be at a member base.
yeah. And it's really up to whoever wants to do it, you can put your creativity into it and create your own thing. You can get involved with your friends to make it even better. The resupply, of course,
Mm-hmm.
is a great example of that. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're just three friends having a good time and bringing the
that's right.
community
Now they've
together.
got multiple nights of content and their primary podcasts about all things Laser Force and SM5 and a little bit disc golf. And, you know,
Heck yeah, on
yeah.
the disc golf.
But yeah, take on, and there's
Man.
opportunity. There can be opportunity. If you're good at promoting and good at organizing, that's a job right there too. Um, it just depends on
Mm-hmm.
how much an individual is willing to put into developing the scene. And then, of course, if you already work at a laser tag center, this gives you an opportunity to perhaps utilize the weeknights a little bit better. Um, by creating events for different levels of players, but at the same time being open for everyone. Um, it helps you in a couple of ways. It spreads out your business a little bit. For us, when we did it, it was in part to draw those players that were super into it away from the gen public
Mm-hmm.
and get them playing with people that are also like-minded and more into it, so that hopefully they're still getting something out of it, but at the same time they're not smashing your birthday parties and kind of ruining your business. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Are there any other points that you want to talk about involving this topic?
um no, I think that pretty much covers it. The creative aspect is the world's our oyster, and we can all do different things, take different approaches, and then share. And hopefully, we have this space now where we can share the ideas and take the best of them and run with them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, what's one thing you want people to take away from this discussion?
Uh, if you've ever had the thought of, I really wish that there was this thing, um, try it. Try it yourself. Try to organize it yourself. Reach out to your friends. You don't have to do all the work on your own, but if you can find other people to help you out to get out there, meet new players, check out new sites, check out different systems. Um, I think that will help enrich your experience in laser tag and open up new pathways for people to meet each other and get together and play in exotic locations like Auckland, New Zealand, or Loveland, Colorado, or St. George, Utah, or uh, the township of Clinton in Michigan that we all call Detroit,
Mm-hmm.
Syracuse, New York. It's a lot of fun out there, guys.
Yeah. Yep, definitely can take you to some wild places. It's
Hmm.
quite the adventure. The one thing that I would have players take away from this discussion is just the idea that one player is really important. Every player is a link to other players. If you can get one new player to join the Laserforce scene, you have no idea what that's going to do, what domino effect that can have on the scene down the road. That person knows, they might know 10 other people that would be interested in playing. And from there, we can just keep inviting new scenes, new bases, new players into the game, and keep the scene growing.
And then just keep in mind to be a good human. You be a good human first, and everything else that's nice will follow.
That's right. Yep. Care about people individually.
Either care, you can not care. You don't have to like people. Just don't be a dick.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Even if you don't like someone, don't be a dick. All right, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate your thoughts today.
Oh, it was great being on Mischief. Always love talking about laser tag and talking about what can and will come.